Don't even try to get likes. Don't try to get comments. Don't try to get anything. If it happens, it'll be a natural side effect of you being consistent. It's through that consistency you start to develop a style of content, just like you develop a style in tattooing.
But people focus so much, I think a little too much, on what their style is. They want to know their style right away because they see other people. Your style kind of finds you when you really dive into what you just enjoy and what feels the most genuine to you. And that's both with style of tattooing and I think also with creating content.
You have to throw spaghetti at a wall for a period of time in order to find that. And most people, I think, are just not willing to go through that period.
Yeah. I think what got me through this, it was just fun for me. My goal wasn't the likes and the comments and the followers. I wanted to put stuff out there and it was just a lot of fun. And so I just kind of focused on that and it just kind of happened.
Welcome to the Artful Dollar Podcast. It's me, Ryan Roy, tattoo artist, financial advisor, coach, spiritual seeker, and just student of life. And I'm just here to share anything and everything that I learn, find interesting and valuable with you all to help you in your businesses, to help you in your life. And I like to find interesting people that I'm curious about to bring on as guests because I like their business, I like what they're doing in tattooing, and just overall vibe. And so I'm so excited to have Pamela Carvalho here on the Artful Dollar Podcast. Pamela, I've just been following you for a while and interested in everything you do. Your content is phenomenal. So we're going to talk about content. We're going to talk about education in tattooing, continuing education, and just have a good time. I just so appreciate you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. For
anyone that doesn't know who you are, and you have a pretty sizable following, and you're definitely it's getting there. Who are you? What do you want people to know about you off the bat?
My name's Pamela Carvalho. I've been tattooing for roughly 11 years. Let's see. I've been drawing for as long as I can remember. It's always been what I've been good at, what I've gravitated towards, like literally the only skill that I have. And so about almost 12 years ago now, my boyfriend at the time was getting tattooed by someone in Rochester. And for whatever reason showed the artist my artwork and the owner offered me an apprenticeship. And that was probably like the worst year of my life. I think I'm one of those kind of stereotypical apprentice stories of just it being an absolute hellscape nightmare. Until I was rescued by another studio pretty close by. And it happened to be owned by a woman. And she was like one of the most wise women I've ever known. And I aspire to be like her in this community and do the kind of the same thing for other people that she did for me.
That's awesome.
Let's see. Oh, yeah. Well, before tattooing, I did all sorts of things like photography, and I was actually a week away from going to cosmetology school out of desperation. And so tattooing kind of found me. And so, yeah, I love it for that.
I think it's such a common story that I hear. People, their first apprenticeship was a hellscape, and then someone came in and rescued them. Like I've heard that same, it's like a classic story in tattooing.
Yep.
I don't know why that is the case, but and I think that way about tattooing for myself too. Like it found me, it chose me. I definitely, I wanted it, but I don't know if this was actually something you can relate to. There was a period of time before I started learning to tattoo, and I worked as a body piercer in tattoo shops, and I didn't have like a real apprenticeship. I learned from a bunch of different people that I worked with, but I was afraid to even say that I wanted to be a tattoo artist. Did that occur for you at all? Do you have that going on, or?
Not as much, I think, just because I wasn't in it. Like I knew
you weren't even looking for it.
Yeah, I wasn't even looking for it. I knew nothing about tattooing. Actually, funny story, when I was in high school, one of my close friends was like, hey, you should be a tattoo artist. And I was like, that's stupid. Why? What is dumb career? Stupid. Why would I do that? So it wasn't even really on my radar.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have even known how to go about finding an apprenticeship. It wasn't, I had no idea. It just completely found me.
Yeah, I was just at the Literary Ink Convention this past weekend, which if you haven't gone, it is amazing. People are dressing up. There's costumes. I was dressed as a wizard. It's just like fun.
I love that.
And it was just such a good vibe. Yeah, so you should definitely check that out. But I was talking with someone about apprenticeships and like almost like there should be like an apprenticeship to like help you prepare? Like, how do you get an apprenticeship? Like, no
Yeah.
one even knows what to do. How do you prepare a body of work? How do you talk to tattoo shops? Because it's something that so many people are wanting, looking for. And then their other option is tattoo schools, which those options are limited and not always, they can be a hellscape in and of themselves.
Yeah.
And just the whole world of continuing education, you know, all kinds of stuff in tattooing is just a challenge. So yeah, it just seems like that wasn't, it just found you and you
It did, yeah. I like already
manifested.
had the drawing portfolio kind of. I didn't know how to draw for tattooing. Like that was something that I still had to learn.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think that's, part of an apprenticeship is learning to draw for tattooing. But yeah, so that's kind of what I try to do now is people who are looking for apprenticeships, they just have no idea where to start and they don't know how to get their portfolio together and what mentors are really looking for. So I try to also share stuff like that with people.
Yeah, so your content game is almost as strong as your tattoo game. It's they're both strong. They're both really strong. And when did content become a part of your tattooing business as a whole?
Yeah, I don't think it was until a couple years ago, just like seeing the rise of reels come up in Instagram and the importance of that when wanting to grow. And I think at the time I only had between 15 and 20,000 followers, which is still a lot.
Yeah.
But then it just rapidly grew, and I didn't decide to do it because I wanted tons of followers and I wanted that. It looked fun, and I come from, I'm an elder millennial. I come from the era of like the rise of YouTube and YouTubers, and I wanted to do that, but I never had anything to say. Like I didn't have a personality back then. I was, 17, 18, and didn't have anything really to say. And so I think I just naturally took to this, and I love acting and pretending, and I found it just fun, and I only wanted to do it if it remained fun. And I also gravitate towards teaching. So I wanted to do both. I have kind of this silly side of my content and then also the teaching side of it. And from early on understood the importance of it having to have value. Like if I am not going to stop and like this or laugh at it or think that it's valuable, why is anyone else going to think that?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to post just to post and just like for the sake of it. I wanted everything that I was doing to have value and have value to me. If I don't see it as valuable, no one else is going to see it as valuable.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, so it sounds like you saw an opportunity in not just posting pictures of tattoos, but in actually making content reels early on. And was the stuff you were making in the beginning as good as the stuff you're making now?
No, not really.
I kind of knew the answer, but I want to shine light on that for anyone that's thinking about making content. So tell me a little bit more about what was it like in the beginning of
in the beginning, it was mostly just lip syncing to various sounds that I thought that I could attribute to tattooing, seeing what other people were doing and trying to adopt that and make it my own. Kind of a little bit of throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what stuck and what didn't, what felt right and what didn't, what felt cringier to me and what didn't. And so just kind of finding your footing, and it takes some time and figuring out.
I was going to say, did it take off quickly for you, or were you seeing a lot of stuff you were posting not getting engagement?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I could go back and look, but I don't think it took too long. I just posted consistently. Of course, not everything is going to stick.
Yeah.
But I posted maybe at least 3 to 4 times a week, just once a day.
That's a lot. That's a good amount.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I had a lot more to say. It's harder now to find new content and have more to say.
Sure.
I feel like I've already touched on a lot of things. I can like kind of rehash it here and there because things get buried.
You should rehash it, and I think that's one thing I need to get back into too. And I'm starting to realize that, like, first of all, not everyone that follows you is going to see what you're posting.
Right.
And then you're going to have all these new followers that haven't seen the older stuff. So you really can recycle ideas, jokes, value, education, and you can do it in a new way. But I think the hardest thing for anyone creating content is that you are throwing spaghetti at the wall, and you could go 4, 5, 6 posts and not really see much engagement, and then you get attached to that outcome as like the metric as to whether or not this is working. And I think people should completely remove that from their idea of what your goal should be in content. Your goal should not, I always was like, don't even try to get likes. Don't try to get comments. Don't try to get anything. If it happens, it'll be a natural side effect of you being consistent. Yeah. And so rather than focusing on quality or quantity, like if you can't do 3 or 4 posts a week every week, then don't do that. Focus on doing 1 post per week and have that be a consistent thing that has you get up and set time in your schedule if you have to, or whatever it is to do it. It's through that consistency that, like you said, you're seeing what other people are doing that's working, or that you like, that you genuinely like, and you start to develop a style of content, just like you develop a style in tattooing. And people are like, well, how do I develop a style in tattooing? Well, you do it.
It just happens.
Over and over again. You repeat it, and the same thing happens for content. Yeah, have you noticed that yourself in your own style?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also hard to see your own style, right? But people focus so much, I think a little too much, on what their style is. They want to know their style right away because they see other people's. And that just...
We're talking about tattooing or content or both?
Both. Well, both.
Yeah.
Tattooing mostly, but content as well. And it's easier to see somebody else's style, right? And you kind of want to emulate that. But your style kind of finds you when you really dive into what you just enjoy and what feels the most genuine to you. And that's both with style of tattooing and I think also with creating content. So not trying to be like anybody else, you can take inspiration from other places, but I think I really found my style when I just focused on what I enjoyed doing and just kind of really dove headfirst into that.
Yeah. Again, it's because I always tell people content is an art form. I think people have a lot of beliefs about content and social media that are very heavy, and it weighs heavily on them. And so if your beliefs around that, even if you put that on tattooing, are heavy, negative, then you're not going to be good at it. You're not going to have fun doing it. And so, yeah, you have to look for what excites you, what interests you. And sometimes you have to throw spaghetti at a wall for a period of time in order to find that. And most people, I think, are just not willing to go through that period.
Yeah. I think what got me through it is it was just fun for me. My goal wasn't the likes and the comments and the followers. I wanted to put stuff out there, and it was just a lot of fun. And so I just kind of focused on that, and then it just kind of happened. And then I had this period of 2 or 3 weeks where I was getting 2,000 followers a day or something stupid like that. I don't even remember if there was any particular reel that went viral. I feel like that wasn't the case. But you just kind of, you're just kind of along for the ride. I don't know. It's weird.
I look at content. I look at content a lot of different ways. And I started making content, particularly around finances, about 4 years ago. You could scroll down on my page. You can see those early ones that are really awkward. And I felt a lot of fear. I felt fear of judgment. But I knew I had something beyond tattooing that I wanted to share. And it took a while for me to start to realize what styles of content I like to do, I want to do, but that also works, because there would be things that I think are awesome. Like I realize I like talking about investing and compound interest and retirement accounts, but I've struggled to find a way to make that style interesting for content for my following. But I like making it. And then there's other content that people find really interesting that I don't enjoy as much. And so even seeing my style of content shift over the years, just in the same way that my style of tattooing shifted over the years. I'm making these comparisons for people really because I just think it is helpful to recognize. And then, I was talking about another tattoo content creator, John Nielsen. I don't know if you're familiar with him. And he kind of leans into his stare, his glare.
I saw you post. Yes.
Yeah. I think he's funny. I think he's authentic. I think he's genuine, and he's not trying to be this bubbly, personality. But in the same way, he's slightly laughing at himself. I feel he's got this slight I'm a little ridiculous, but this is also who I am, and I'm not going to apologize for that. You can find any way to create content that is authentic to you. And someone was commenting on that post something about I don't really see his tattoos that much, or not that showing tattoos has anything to do with tattooing anymore. Almost like a negative kind of posting tattoos on Instagram, making content. And I I think that content has nothing to do with the art of tattooing, and it has everything to do with the business of tattooing.
Right.
And so let's separate them and not say that
Yeah.
tattooing is reliant on content and content reliant on tattooing. They're two separate things completely.
Yeah.
And they can support each other, and that's all. So anyway, I was just thinking about that. So anything else about content creation? What are you doing these days that you can offer some guidance for anyone that's uncomfortable or awkward or feeling,
Yeah, I think
some type of way?
you have to not read the comments is a big thing, especially if something goes viral, because it's being shown to people who have not elected to follow you. It is just out there. People are seeing it without having chose to. And so you can get a lot of negativity that way. And it's important to just kind of just let it roll right off.
I think there's a fear of being seen that people have, because if I'm seen, and if I'm seen by a lot of people, then that's going to happen. And I feel like that fear of being seen, like energetically, keeps us playing a smaller game.
Yeah.
It's like we're not really fully willing to step into the responsibility of being seen and what comes along with that, good or bad. And that was a process for me. I don't know if you felt that way, like once things started to blow up and you realize you're getting negative comments from people that don't even follow you, and they, whatever. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's always being mindful of how something is going to be perceived. And that part is just tricky. Like if someone's going to nitpick, they're going to find that small thing about your video that you either said or did that they're going to take issue with. Sometimes it's a genuine mistake, sometimes it's not. But just being aware of that and trying to think about that when you're creating your content, I think is important. But just understanding the fact that like you're not going to please everybody, and there's always going to be someone who's going to disagree with you, especially in an industry that's so nuanced. Like every single thing about tattooing is very nuanced, and I only have 90 seconds to explain something.
And that's a lot. Really, you have like 30 seconds because people aren't even going to watch the other 60 seconds.
They're
even
not.
If you put it out there.
Yeah, they're not going to read the caption. They're not.
But they will leave a comment. They will watch the first 15 seconds, form an opinion, and feel this urge compelled to comment on something that they haven't even watched all the way through or read the caption, which,
Yeah, and very few people I find now have the ability to, there's like this illiteracy in media where they don't have the ability to determine who the audience is and understand that this content isn't for them. Like this is not a direct message. Like I haven't sent this to you directly.
Right.
You have to be able to understand this is for me or it's not for me. For example, when I posted about the importance of protecting your tattoo from the sun and the importance of wearing sunscreen, so many comments of people being like, well, I'm allergic to sunscreen. And it's like, well, then I'm not telling you to wear it. Like, this is not a one-to-one conversation. Like, you have to be able to understand that there are some exceptions to things and nuances.
Yeah, I think for anyone listening to this, if you don't know this already, that not every piece of content in the internet was made for you. Just in case you weren't sure. Maybe you thought that. And anyone that's going to make content, know that there are going to be people that they think you're making content that you're talking directly to them, and you're not. And so they're going to leave a comment, they're going to say something, and sometimes I will just comment back and be like, hey, not every piece of content on the internet was made for everyone. It's not personal, and I can't cover everything in this.
No, we can only generalize, and you got to be able to fill in those blanks yourself.
And I think those are like one of the biggest challenges in content, is that you have to generalize. You can't get super nitty gritty. And then people can stare at your content for as little or as long as they want, form any number of opinions, easily point out what you missed or didn't consider, because you only considered such a small fraction of things. And then they're going to, rage comment on your thing. And just the people that wake up in the morning and like, that's what they live for. That's how they get their serotonin dopamine kick, is they live for the rage comment, the keyboard warriors. I feel bad for them. I mean, I have compassion. Let's say I try to have compassion.
Exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It's an exhausting way to live.
You wake up in the morning in a prison of your own mind, and the only way you know to seek joy or satisfaction is to just shit on someone else that you don't even know on the internet that has nothing to do with you. My heart goes out to everyone afflicted with that.
The other thing that happened a lot to me was as I was doing content that was teaching and could be considered constructive criticism, right? Like saying, hey, I'm seeing a lot of artists make these mistakes. Here's what I think will help. A lot of comments of accusing me of being judgmental, like overly criticizing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of what exactly their gripe with me was, but they just want the fluffy stuff from me. They think that I think I'm better than everybody else because I'm posting a constructive criticism, and that they like all criticism is bad.
Yeah.
You have to really deal with being misunderstood. Like, you just have to accept the fact that people are going to misinterpret and misunderstand you. And that's none of my business. Like, it's none of my business if someone's going to misunderstand me and think that I'm horrible.
A lot of the time I found that the best course of action when someone leaves a comment like that is to not say anything. To just let it be. You don't have to delete it.
Yeah.
You can leave it there, because I feel like people that are really meant to follow you, and they're people that are actually going to work with you, the people that really appreciate you, see that, and they're not forming an opinion of you based on that comment. They're and real authenticity, you being your authentic self, like you said, you don't want to just post the fluffy, funny stuff. You want to post stuff that is valuable and can have a positive, or not as positive, but a helpful critique of what people are doing. Again, tattooing is so nuanced that you're only speaking to some people that would find that valuable. And if you don't find that information valuable, or you disagree, that's fine. Occasionally people will comment and disagree with me, but they'll do it in a way that is like, I see what you're saying and I don't agree with it, and this is my opinion. I'm like, oh my God, that's a real conversation. Great. Yeah. I love that. I love when people don't agree with me and they let me know it, but they just voice their opinion too. And it's not like they're bad or I'm bad. It's just, that's the way the world works.
Yeah, it's really refreshing when that happens, for sure.
So we've got your growing tattoo career. You seem to be thriving, and obviously your style of work is not for everyone. Is that something that you kind of leaned into at a certain point in your career, niching down in your style of tattooing?
Yeah, I've kind of had to. I don't think that, like, my artistic brain I can't get my mind around traditional and simplifying things and putting bold lines on everything. It's just a style that I've never been able to draw. I've never been able to really do, and it's not me. And so I've kind of had to make tattooing my own and make my style of art tattooable, and still taking principles from that traditional style and putting it into mine. So the necessity for black ink and how important it is in the structure of your tattoo, and lining, which I do still do. I line with black and I line with gray washes, and the importance of contrast and having all of that, the importance of that in the longevity of the tattoo.
Were you ever worried that leaning into your style of tattooing was going to lead to booking less tattoos? Because that's a concern I've heard from people, that they're like, I'm worried that if I start only posting a certain style, or I start leaning heavily into Japanese or whatever, fine line or this or that people are going to not book. They're so worried that they're going to miss out on business. And I think that general jack of all trades tattooer worked really well 5 to 10 plus years ago. But as you have an industry that has more and more and more and more people in it, a more saturated industry, you can't stand out if you aren't taking those risks. If you aren't saying, no, this is actually my thing that I do and no one else does it quite like me and I don't do this and that, you end up just blending in with the crowd.
Yeah, I might be a special case. I don't know that I ever really struggled with booking or being afraid of that, and I'm very grateful and fortunate. I think because most people that knew me, like when I started out, they already knew that I was good at art, so I had this kind of automatic built-in trust with people, which, because they didn't understand that tattooing is a completely different thing than drawing, but I had this built-in trust of like, oh, Pam's really good at drawing, she's going to do excellent on this tattoo, which of course I didn't at first. Like I was very, as everybody is, pretty terrible at first, but I didn't really struggle with booking.
Did you try to do all styles of tattooing in the beginning, or did you really try to just...
The first couple of years I kind of had to. I don't know if it was different styles, but it was definitely like all different subject matter, just taking whatever walked in the door.
Outside of your wheelhouse, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't say yes to anything that was so outside of my wheelhouse that I was uncomfortable doing it. Like, for example, if someone came to me and they wanted a Japanese style something, I wasn't going to do it. It's like, I don't draw Japanese style. I would be completely copying somebody else's artwork because I don't draw that way. I'd have to learn a completely new style of drawing to make it original, and it's just not going to happen. So I, not afraid to say no to those things is important, especially early on, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
But, and not saying no to things just because you don't feel like tattooing it, but saying no to things that are completely outside of your scope of ability.
Yeah, there's a difference between stretching your comfort zone and completely stepping out into the void. Mm-hmm. I mean, I worked at street shops doing everything and anything that came through the door, and there's a part of me that does feel like there was a tremendous amount of value in getting requested to do different styles, having to learn, having to do that, and I do feel like that was great, but I don't subscribe personally to this idea that you have to do that to be successful at tattooing. Mm-hmm. And I look at other industries, I look at other art forms, and I have a background in jewelry and metalsmithing. I didn't have to learn how to make every type of jewelry that exists or work in every single medium. I could focus on the types of things. There was enough to learn in just that alone. Mm-hmm. And again, I think in any industry that becomes saturated, look at pizza shops, right? There's a million pizza shops, right? Are you just going to be just another, world famous pizza shop just like everyone else, or are you going to do something different, something unique that stands out in your niche? And I think that goes for all businesses, tattooing included. So I think when I look at you and I hear your story with your style of work, with the way you saw content and reels, and you were excited about that, like, I don't know if it was luck or what, but you were excited by these two things, having a specific style and creating content that reaches a lot of people, that resonates with them, that I would attest to a lot of the success that you have right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And those are two things that do scare a lot of people. And it's just interesting that those two things, leaning into a specific style, leaning into marketing and being seen in the world, are very scary for people.
They are,
do you
definitely.
just simply not give a fuck? Is that just...
I do.
Don't have any... you do? Okay. Well, tell me about that.
Yeah, I struggle. Thankfully, I'm married to somebody who genuinely doesn't give a fuck. And so being around him, that rubs off on me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't actually have to care about this. But I struggle very much at first, and I'm still working on this, not having to defend myself against everybody in the comments. And it's actually kind of a bad look to be arguing with everyone in the comments and defending yourself. You just let people say what they're going to say and let people form their own opinion about you based on what you've said, and not just the comments and everything. And just because of my personality, I really struggle with the idea that someone's misunderstanding me. And I feel like if they just had all the information, they would...
Right. If I could just get them to understand me, then they'd like me.
Yeah, they'd love me. And well, no, you don't understand. I don't need to do that. And I think it just comes from, I was an ignored child, and I did not have any friends growing up, and I used my art as a way to get positive attention. And so I have this terrible fear that someone's going to say something, and then everyone's going to be against me, and then I'm going to be invisible again. It's just that small me is still very much trying to take the wheel at times, when 35-year-old logical me is no, that everything's okay.
Do you read books?
Oh, I read a lot. I actually have. I decided to, because I don't have enough things, I also started an online book club. And
perfect. I read a lot of books in the realm of personal professional development, business, and spirituality. Those are my themes. And there's a book called The Courage to be Disliked. that, I don't know if you haven't checked it out or heard of it.
I should probably read that.
I got a lot of it. It's great. It's a really interesting story. Any books that had a big impact on you and your life and your career?
No. I read mostly fiction. I hardly ever read nonfiction. So
Has any fictional book made an impact on your life?
I don't know if I can narrow it down to like one book. I think there are a lot of even fiction books that have helped change my outlook on other people and the world and had a positive impact on me, but I don't know if I could narrow it down to like one or two books.
The fictional book that I'd say it's one of my favorite books of all time and had a big impact is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I love. It just Douglas Adams, his whole philosophy, his whole outlook. It is very much appreciate the world, but also don't give a fuck. And I think those two lessons come out strong in that.
Yeah, definitely. But I didn't really get deep into reading again until the last couple of years.
If you've been enjoying this episode or found my podcast helpful and you think other people would benefit from listening, then all I ask in return is please leave a quick review or subscribe. It'll take just 1 minute and it might help other tattooers and artists find this podcast and help them. So please, it would mean the world to me and it might make a difference for someone else. Thanks. So the other side of your business, and it's something you've kind of dipped your toe into, is education. And so tell me a little bit more about that. What got you interested in that? How's it going? How's it not going? I don't know.
Yeah. So, I took on an apprentice and I knew that I wanted to wait until I was at least 10 years into tattooing before doing that. And I have this thing, I love sharing things that I love with other people, and that translates to other things in my life, but especially tattooing. I'm obviously very passionate about it, and I see so many people struggling, and it's just kind of ingrained in me to try and help and be kind of this matronly figure in the tattoo community that people can be comfortable coming to with questions, but also being careful not to fall into this thing that's going on in the tattoo community right now, which I would love to talk about, which is things getting a little bit scammy and things being a money grab and something being presented as this big education opportunity, but it's so expensive. And then tattooers the tattooer who's supposed to be mentoring you just completely bailing and you not getting out of it what you're supposed to. And that's happening. Yeah. That's happening a lot. And I think that there's a lot of that going on. A lot of tattooers are doing it well and some of them aren't. And there's this thing where you have to be tattooing, but you also, when you reach a certain point, you have to be this entrepreneur of education. And it hurts to get kind of squirrely, and I don't want that to happen. So for me, I did a few online seminars. I did a recording of one, and then I just have it available on my website for a small amount. I think a little bit less than I charged for people who are actually there. Just as like a passive income thing, but it being small, I want it to still be accessible because I think that that's important.
I've noticed that, and this is not all tattoo artists, but there's this idea that when something is expensive, it must be a scam.
Right, there's that, but it isn't necessarily, right? There are some...
Well, that's what I want to get at. And there are, and I know some of the situations you're speaking on, and I will just say Jess Fox is one of the artists that is talking right now about an experience they had. And Jess is actually one of my first clients.
Oh, wow.
Financial coaching clients.
Yeah.
Like 2 years ago. And I have so much admiration for her and how she runs her business. She's just like an upstanding human being.
She really seems that way.
Solid person. And she spent a lot of money on courses, on my course, on other courses. So she has experience investing in herself. So I feel like anyone who's interested in her experience and what she's going through now, and I won't dive into it, you can go check out Jess Fox. And I just think it is actually really good to see people that have invested thousands of dollars in themselves, in their businesses, and what they think is working and what they think is not working.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's this duality happening as well, because you also have people just on the outskirts of the industry who don't believe that an apprenticeship that you should have to pay for it, that apprenticeship should be free, or you should be getting paid for an apprenticeship. But on
Let's
the
be
flip
clear,
side,
nothing is free,
nothing is free.
right?
And
So if you don't pay for it in money, you're paying for it with something.
right.
And
I
it
get
might
that
not be a price you actually want to pay.
right. And it's just a matter of learning how to scope out the people who are taking advantage of you, right? Like there obviously are scumbags out there who are taking advantage of people trying to learn, and they're charging heaps and heaps of money for an apprenticeship, and then they're making you do all this other stuff on top of it, and they're not teaching you anything. That's obviously not what you want. They're taking advantage of you. But a mentor also, I believe, deserves compensation for their teaching and their knowledge and their expertise, especially if they're taking time away from their tattooing in order to do so. And as long as...
And they're cramming years of experience. I mean, I've had 3 apprentices in my 15 years of tattooing, and I could show them things that took me 5 years to learn in a month. And it would be amazing to see. And so it's like, what is that worth to you? Like I view money and time as kind of the same thing. They're just 2 different forms of the same thing.
Yeah.
So if I'm condensing something that I had to toil over and run into the same wall over and over again to learn, and now I learned the lesson and I can give it to you in a week or so, that has a tremendous amount of value.
Yeah, and then people are like, oh, well, I can't afford it. And I'm like, well, then save up for it. And they're like, well, how can I if, But I'm like, well, then have a part-time job while you're also learning tattooing. Like, tattooing isn't going to be immediately lucrative. Like, it's investing in your education of tattooing and learning a trade. And people aren't either willing to do that, or they just think it's not possible. And I have friends I have a friend who shoveled cow shit for 5 years while he started tattooing, and did both because that's what he really wanted to do. He really wanted to tattoo. And it's not that you have to do that, but if you have a mentor who understands that you can't be in 2 places at once.
I have a friend, I think he worked at Guitar Center for a fucking wild amount of time. I can't remember. And he paid $10,000 for his tattoo apprenticeship. He worked at Guitar Center, people.
Yeah.
Like, he was willing to put up with that. If you've never been into a Guitar Center, it's one of the most depressing places on the planet, in my opinion.
It is.
And he toiled and worked through and dealt with all that shit. But he was like, he knew. He was like, I'm going to be a tattoo artist, and I will do whatever it takes. And there's nothing that's going to stop me from it. And when you have that mentality, that internal game, the external game rearranges itself. The universe reorganizes itself to support you with your goal, your dream, when you're that intentional and you're that dedicated to it. Or you could convince yourself, oh, well, I can't do it because of this and this and this. The universe ain't going to rearrange itself for that person.
Right.
But the universe literally rearranges itself for the person that is like, I'm clear on my goal and I'm willing to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to get there. And then here's the thing. It's not going to be some way that you figured it out. It's not going to be some logical plan and some linear, I put these pieces in order and then I produce X result. It's going to be these wild synchronicities that come out of nowhere. These unexpected things that happen when you're clear and intentional and taking action on your goal.
Yeah, definitely.
But when you're sitting on the sideline, coming up with reasons and excuses and not taking action, you kind of just simply don't put yourself in the position for those kind of miraculous synchronicities that you could never expect to occur in your life. And so I've been leaning more into this in my own life, my business. I just realized I'm never going to figure out how to accomplish my biggest goals. I'm going to be very intentional and clear. I'm going to take action every day on it, but it's going to be some unexpected synchronicities, and they happen. And I've seen them happen. I'm like, that was amazing. I could have never planned that. And because of XYZ, now this whole other thing's going on. So anyway, just getting a little more of my mindset tangent, but yeah.
I think a lot of people also, they just think that they should have something and that it's owed to them just because they want it. And no one owes you tattooing, and it's not your right to be a tattooer. Like everybody has the right to have the opportunity to work hard to become a tattooer, but you're not just owed something just for being there. And and I think that goes with just about almost everything that's not life or death. Tattooing is a luxury, and no one owes it to you.
There's all those memes about like apprentices, like so and so told me I had to sweep the floor and like da da da, and like when I was 14 I got a job for an artist doing carpentry, and like that was the first thing he taught me, was how to sweep the floor. I mean, like actually taught me how to. I did not know how to sweep the floor. I realized that it's actually a skill that you should learn, and not everyone fucking knows it.
Yeah, well, a lot of times you have like a young apprentice, and not only do you have to teach them tattooing, but you have to teach them how to be a responsible adult and own their own business, because most of the time you are an independent contractor at a tattoo studio.
Yeah.
You are your own business, so you have to learn how to take care of those things as well.
Yeah. How about that side of tattooing? You're strong in your art, you're strong in your marketing, but like, what about the business side of things? How's your relationship with that part of tattooing?
I mean, I'm pretty bad at it.
Yeah.
But I do have help.
Tell me about it.
I forget certain things now and then, like to order paper towels, and I get behind on stuff like that. Just ADHD brain and not being as organized as I should be. But I think all of that is also a skill, and I've had to learn those skills, even though they're exceptionally difficult for me, and they just take a lot more effort for me to learn.
Remind me again, you own a studio?
Yeah. Yeah. So
and what is the name of your studio?
It's Wild Isley.
Wild Isley. And where are you located again, just for anyone
I'm in
listening?
Danville, New York.
How did that come about for you? Did that just happen, or?
Yeah, I was at the time very happy to just be a lifer at the tattoo studio that I was at White Tiger in Webster. I loved the people that I worked with and everything, but it just made sense for our family to move down here. And so we're in a much more rural area. And I didn't want to work at the tattoo studios that were in town. If you know anything about very, very small town tattoo studios, it's a little rough. So this was just kind of out of necessity. And for a while it'll just be me. I've been tattooing for 6 years. So, I think I could do it. And I had already had built a very strong clientele that were willing to follow me down here, which I'm eternally grateful for as well. And so, yeah, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Like, it's difficult, but again, special case. My husband was invited to come work at the church that he has spent like the last 20 years attending. And he's also the youth pastor, and he's been involved here for a very long time. The pastor is kind of like his surrogate father. So it's kind of like family, and it's our community. But they offered me this space at the back of the building, so I have my own entrance. They renovated it for me, and they offered it to me like rent-free, and I kind of have it made, and I don't have to worry about like building codes, and I don't have to worry about a lot of like nitty-gritty stuff when it comes to like owning your own business and doing all of that. Really, what I just take care of is I make sure that the space is clean, and I make sure everything is ordered, and
It sounds like there's a lot of synchronicities, like just beautiful synchronicities showing up. And like, I don't hear it as like, oh, Pamela's just so lucky. I hear it as like, you are clear on your vision. You're clear what you want. You work towards it, and the universe is rearranging itself. It sees that. It's recognized. And so I think there's a lot of crab mentality in tattooing, if you know what I'm talking about. It's the crab bucket. The crabs they see someone climbing up doing really well, and people want to make excuses or blame or drag someone down. But I don't think anyone gets out of the bucket just because of luck. I don't believe that.
No.
I believe that they're either putting something good out there, they're creating something positive for people around them, they're creating value for others. If you're someone that isn't creating value for the people around you, whether that's personally, professionally, spiritually, whatever it is, I don't think you just magically get out of the bucket.
No.
Magically create a life of abundance. And there are people that have a life of quote unquote abundance that are miserable. And I think it's a hard thing to encapsulate what it takes to become successful in any field. But I just see you doing a lot of good, very clear about your intention, taking a lot of action. And
I attribute a lot of that to my faith as well. I think that like a lot of it was like not necessarily following what was the most logical thing at the time, but just trusting God or the universe, whatever that process is, even though if it at the time didn't seem to make very much sense. But just knowing in my heart that it was the right thing. And I think sometimes the world's view of success can get a little bit skewed. And I think where I find the most success in what I'm doing is when I really lean into the humanity in tattooing and that one-on-one and just like impacting the lives of the people that I'm in contact with and being a positive force in that way and not focusing so much on popularity, on that type of success, but having it be more, I find more fulfillment in the humanity of it, and to be kind of a hippie phrase about it, like spreading love and like impacting lives in a positive way. I think that's like...
How has your faith helped you in business, in life, in your career? I'm really interested in that. And you brought it up, and so I wanted to dive into it a little bit because I love that we're talking about this.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's helped me stay grounded for sure. I think it is like...
And what does that mean, stay grounded?
Right. So without it, like I'm so focused on worldview of success, thinking that I'm not successful unless I've tattooed a celebrity, unless I've been on a billion podcasts, unless I've done this, that, and the other thing. But my faith has kind of helped me reground myself in what is important and what is going to leave a lasting impact for real. And that's going to be the lives of the other humans that I come into contact with. And in tattooing, you hear a lot of negative stories from people. Like people come and get tattooed after they've had a traumatic experience, after they've experienced death, after a lot of very major life things, both positive and negative. And so being someone that person can talk to, not necessarily like in a deep way, like I'm not a therapist, but offering people hope a little bit without, I'm not out here, I've got people stuck in a chair for 3 hours. I'm not going to corner them with anything at all. I don't
No, but it happens naturally. I work as a coach, but I was a coach long before I was a professional coach. And I had tattoo clients just talking to me about their lives, and we'd have these powerful conversations, and they would leave feeling with like a new perspective and a new thing. And I think that was a big part of what I had such a strong clientele coming back was because of those relationships.
Yeah, definitely.
And the value that they saw in not just the tattoo, but in the relationship that we had.
Yeah, I think that's like the most important part for me. Like if you take away, if Instagram were to go down tomorrow, and I didn't have any of that, there's still a part of tattooing that is more sustainable to me, and it's that part of it. It's like the personhood within tattooing.
Yeah. I think that's something I always loved about tattooing is the people. I view business, the game of business, and I do view it as a game, but I feel it has been like this spiritual crucible where it burns away a lot of the self-seeking things. Because if you go into the game of business purely from a self-seeking, how do I look better, be better, grow more for me, business will fucking cut your legs off. Like it doesn't care. I don't think it actually serves those people well. And let's say you build a successful business from that perspective, I think it'll weigh so heavily on your mind that it won't be fun. You won't be fulfilled in it.
For sure.
And there's another book that I'm actually reading right now again for the third time. Absolutely one of my favorite books by a guy named Michael Singer. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he wrote a book called The Surrender Experiment. He's written a couple books. And this guy wanted to just live in the woods and meditate. That's all he wanted. And seek enlightenment, seek God, be devoted. And he decided one day that might not, like that rigorous meditation, spiritual practice might not get him where he wanted to go, and that all these things were coming up in life, and maybe he should just surrender to the flow of life, to whatever life's showing up, and just say yes to it, regardless of his personal preferences. And anyway, long story short, he goes from just wanting to meditate and be a vegetarian in the woods to building a multi-billion-dollar company and being a CEO of it and making a big impact on the world around him. But it was his spiritual practice that helped him do that. And without that, business is just, it's so heavy, it's so crushing, it's full of so much unpredictable stuff. And so anyway, just hearing you talk about your faith and relationship with God and those things, I just think they're so important, and it's made a huge impact on my life. And so I identify with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, one thing that we talked about, I was sharing, and I was just at the Literary Ink convention, and I was asking people either a moment of their tattoo career that just lives in their brain rent-free forever. And I was talking about the time that I knocked over this guy's station, just ink and ink caps and rinse cups everywhere at a convention, and he was going to fucking kill me. And years later, I made a post about it, like 10 years later, and the guy DM'd me. He's like, "That was you." And anyway, it was just such a funny interaction. We laughed about it years later. But any moments from your tattoo career that just live rent-free in your head forever?
Yeah, so I've learned so I had a client years ago, you know, they came in and they let me know that they had this condition that causes their hands to sweat a lot. So I tattoo them, it's fine. I have to give her a paper towel to hold on to. And years go by, and I have another client who comes in and they say, you know, I've got this condition that makes my hands sweat. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had a client years ago that had this thing, and her, you know, sweat dripped onto my leg and it's fine. And I was trying to make her feel more comfortable. And then she was like, oh, that was me. And so I've, you know, been very careful since then about like talking about other clients. When they come in and like trying to remember who they are, it's just like really difficult to recognize people.
I think that's a big thing in general. Like, as minimally as you can, don't talk about other clients with other clients. I've had some instances that,
gratefully,
well, so.
I was saying it in a way where I wasn't like, oh, that was so gross. Like, I was trying to make her feel more comfortable. So I was talking about the situation in like a kind of a positive way. So I hope that she took it that way, but
mine was not so positive. I'll just be honest about this, because I was talking to someone about how another client did not sit very well for their tattoo, and it was really hard to tattoo them. And I was griping a little bit about it, and somehow through a grapevine, they found out about that, and I felt so bad. And I was just like, that's shitty. And I apologize.
I've seen a lot of artists do that, where like, whether it's online or I've heard that's just all they talk about in the studio is just, you know, they moan about other clients and really like just shit on them completely. And it's just terrible, because then your client feels like, oh, are they going to talk about me after I leave? You know? That's
it. And that was what I realized. I learned that lesson, and I was like, nope, I don't talk about this anymore. This is,
it's a bad look. And something that some of us learn the hard way, where like things get back and we're like, oh no, like I didn't mean for that to.
Well, where can people find you on the interwebs?
So I am definitely on Instagram. It's wild.isley.tattoo, ISLEY. And
what is Wild Isley?
So let's see. My husband's a really big fan of Batman. And in the comics, Poison Ivy's real name is Pamela Isley. So we gave our eldest daughter the middle name Isley. So then I named the studio Wild Isley.
Got it. Okay. I like that. Very cool. So Wild Isley Tattoo on Instagram. Yep.
It's wild.isley.tattoo. And then my email is wildisleytattoo.com. I'm sorry, that's my website. It's hot in here. I'm like,
I know. No worries.
My brain is turning into soup.
Well, any tattooers that are interested in checking out either your work or your content, just again for reference, you don't have to copy anything, but just to see what someone else is doing. Like, I think there's a lot of value. I've referenced you in the Artful Marketer marketing course. I've shared some of your content. I'm like, ooh, I like the way that she's providing value and relatability. Thank you. You're funny and authentic with people, and so it's helped them a lot. So check that out. And I wish you just so much success with what you're doing. I'd love to just keep following what you're up to.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, I just want to prompt that if you got some value out of this conversation, please go and leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you saw this podcast. It really helps me out and it really helps other people to find this podcast. I want more people to have these types of conversations around money so that we can all be more free and at ease and abundant and able to create the lives that we really want to live. So please share this and rate and review. Appreciate it. Thanks.